Okay, so that all seems to work. I don't know if anybody else will be joining us, but at least, and it is being recorded now, so this is going live onto YouTube, so people can watch it there. They can watch it on the website. Hopefully.
How many people are we in the Skype conversation?
Well, I don't know. It depends how many people will join. I expect. Maybe nobody. I mean, I'm glad that you are there because I thought I would be talking to myself. So, yeah, I don't know. It should be available on the website, but it's not. Oh, it is. No, it's not.
This.
Yes, it is. You have to click a few times to make it work. So people have a choice. They can, in theory, they can watch it on the Big History website, or they can watch it on YouTube if they can find the right place. So and if they haven't got Skype, they can make comments on either of those places. So I can monitor what's being written, if anything, and I should be able to see how many people are watching. Oh, 4 people are watching.
Hello.
So I can't see you. So now I have the power, in theory, to switch. I've never done this before, so it's all experimental. So
Neither did I.
okay. So now Well, there's a delay between the things that we do and the things that they see, but if they're watching, they will be able to see you and me. They can see what I can see on Skype, which is a big picture of whoever's talking, and then a small picture of the others who are listening. I think that's how it works. It's a long time since I took part in a Skype conference, but I think if you get more people, their images appear at the bottom, and then somehow I can make them, because I'm running this, I can make them appear. Anyway, let's assume that nobody else will appear on this conference. So you've made some comments on the website, haven't you?
Yes.
I mean, just in general, I guess the first thing we should do is introduce ourselves, so that if anybody's watching who doesn't know who we are, they can say. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay.
So,
Well,
what's your name?
my name is Olga Garcia Moreno, and I'm talking to you now from California.
Ah,
I am making this visit for the summer. I am working with Walter Alvarez,
right.
the
Good.
history here.
Wow.
But I usually work in Spain,
Yeah.
in Universidad de Oviedo University, which is on the north coast of Spain. It's a small university. And we have, I am geologist. I study rocks and mountains and all that kind of stuff. I also have a background in material science, because for my postdoc, I try to work with non-geological materials to make ceramics and these kind of things. So my interest in big history came from the work I've been doing with Walter Alvarez here in Berkeley. I made a previous visit here in California 3 years ago, and we started to work on the history of gold for my country in Spain, how Spain and Portugal got to manage gold from all over the world in its history. So we are now finishing this paper about the importance of gold for the history of Spain.
The economic history.
So, yeah. So when I came back to Spain after my last visit here in Berkeley, I tried to introduce big history in Spain. As all the materials were in English, I tried to start making some translations or making my own materials in Spanish to show what big history is to the non-English speaking people in Spain, which is a lot of people, because not everybody can manage with English language in Spain. It can be in the university level, but not in secondary or high school levels. For example, for teachers in secondary or high school, if they have big history books in English, they will not use them. So I was trying to meet all these teachers and tell them about big history in Spain for the last few years. So for that, I tried to find help from other colleagues in my university from different disciplines, because I only know a little bit about geology, but not anything about anthropology or biology or whatever. So we have this group of almost 20 scholars in my university, and we work together for this big history outreach for the general public for teachers.
That's good.
Yeah, I think
You've had a big success, I think.
Yeah, it's been very slow, and up to now we only reach our region in north of Spain.
Mm-hmm.
But in September, we will have the opportunity to show what big history or La Gran Historia is in this exhibition that will take place in the National Museum for Science and Technology in Madrid.
Okay, that's good.
There's a big exhibition where the most prominent research projects in universities from all over Spain will be shown, focusing on the importance of doing research in universities for the general public, for the society.
Mm-hmm.
So they've chosen our project as an important project of how research can be linked to the society.
Mm-hmm.
So for 1 year, there will be this panel and information about La Gran Historia in the National Science and Technology Museum.
That's really good. You've done well. Let me just say a few words about me in case people are interested. So, I call myself Wykin Seagrave. That's my writer's name. My real name's Philip Brown, which is not, for a writer, that's no good. You have to be easily found on the internet. And Wykin Seagrave is a lot easier to find. And I started researching about what I call the history of the universe when I left physics. So I left university. I did physics at university, and then after a short time teaching, I then went to Cambridge to start studying, because I always wanted to find out where we come from, which is why I studied physics. And so I've been researching that subject for the past 40 years, although, I mean, the first 2 years really were fairly intensive. I was doing nothing else but researching it, put together what I understood to be the story, which has not changed that much since then, and then got married and had to get a job, so this history of the universe was on the back boiler. But I wrote books and websites, and I'm still writing about it now. I'm currently writing a work of fiction which takes the characters back through history, having adventures as they go back through time and eventually reach the Big Bang. So that's where I come from. And as far as big history is concerned, I actually heard about big history on French radio. I listened to French radio more than English radio, and heard a lecturer from the Sorbonne mention big history, and I was astonished that other people were talking about this subject. So yeah, I started getting interested in it then. But my take on it is different from David Christian's. David Christian is a historian and gives a lot of emphasis to the human history. For me, human history is a very small part of the history of the universe, and I spend a lot more time talking about science and try to present an integrated view of science, because most children are interested in science, but the way we teach it is really not very interesting. We split it up into different branches. They don't really see the point, whereas History of the Universe gives you a framework, a meaningful account of where we've come from. So to me, it's a new epic myth, a new creation myth, which has got many valuable benefits to bring. The other thing I try to draw out is the lessons from history. Having looked at all the past, what does that tell us about the future? And that's the other aspect of it. I'm not sure that David Christian does that, or the big history thing does that. But anyway, that's where I'm coming from. So, let's go back to what happened in Amsterdam. So we had a conference. The Big History International Association had their conference in Amsterdam, and at that meeting, a group of us decided that we would start a group called the Big History European Network. And this meeting today is the first of the online conferences. I think we need to share ideas and discuss what we want to achieve from this. Now, the middle of August is a very bad time to hold a conference because everybody's on holiday. But in fact, this is more of a trial than anything else to prove that it can be done, which, I mean, I need to see what the result of this is on YouTube. But the idea is we have a permanent record, and people these days, certainly members of the public, would rather watch a video than read a transcript, because the alternative way of discussing where we're going with this network is by having an online forum where people write in their comments over a period of time. That's available on our network, so the URL of the network is being broadcast as we talk, bighistory.eu, and people can go there, and if they're interested in taking part in this project, they're very welcome to join. They can apply, and we can make them an author, and they can create pages about what they're doing and profiles of themselves. The question is, what do we want to achieve? And I think what I would imagine we would do is have both online discussions and live discussions over the next, well, I don't know how long it's going to take. Somebody mentioned a year of just thinking about it, but I don't know. I suppose that's probably about right. In reality, we're not going to achieve anything very quickly. I mean, what Olga, what do you think we could achieve with this? What would you
yes,
what do you want to achieve?
It's a difficult question because I have already tried to do something similar in my university, but instead of using Skype or internet, we try to meet together for some meetings, maybe once a month. We started with every month meetings, and then at the beginning everything was very exciting and everybody wanted to get involved in doing something, and we were trying to write down some objectives we would follow and so on. But at the end, as this was not part of everyday work that they have to do, it became more slow, and few people participated in the meetings and so on. So I think it will be useful if we try to focus on our goals from the very beginning, trying to define exactly what we want to do with this network. And I am giving the answer, giving you
your
the answer with the same question that you are asking me. Sorry. But I think the first thing we should do is to fix these goals, and probably, and this is one thing that it's difficult to achieve, is to get a granted project. I don't know what should be the main topic for that project. I don't know whether it should be research, like a scientific research project, or more educational type of project. I cannot I cannot give you an answer of that, but I think with a granted project from the European Union other different foundations or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, people would get more involved in
Yeah.
in getting all these objectives
Yeah.
defined
Yeah.
and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, a project to define goals, I'm not sure that's how fundable that is. I mean, I've got no experience at applying for funding, so I don't know. I mean, maybe that's feasible. I mean,
With
yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry. After the last conference in San Rafael in 2014,
Mm-hmm.
we tried to make this project research from. I mean, we were looking for grants in the UE, and it's difficult to find a grant project where big history can fit in, because they are all quite alive in different disciplines, so big history
That's right.
is the contrary.
That's right.
But we found this project calls that are called COST, COST.
Mm-hmm.
Grant projects that are based on this kind of interdisciplinary networks. And well, always Martin Orange was here talking with us because he was doing a lot of work in this, and he might help me remembering everything about this grant project. But yeah, there are some we'll be able to find for our network, which doesn't mean it will be easy.
No.
Because they are very high level competitive
That's right.
grants.
And I mean, the majority of people who are interested in big history, most people who attended the conference were academics, and academics need to search for finance, I guess, in order to live. And I think that kind of limits people's horizons somewhat. I mean, I'm coming at this from a totally different point of view. I'm saying, what does the citizen need? I'm not looking at it from a university's point of view or a school teacher's point of view. I'm saying, what does the citizen need to know about this story, and why would they want to know? The basic principles of marketing is that you identify wants and needs. So what do people want and what do they need to know about where they've come from and where they're going? And I think that they have a lot of wants and needs which this story could satisfy. Everybody at some stage in their lives asks the question, why are we here? What's it all for? And this story provides some of the answers which I'm not sure that everybody knows. In order to so that's one of the wants. People want to know where they've come from, I think. Every civilization has come up with their own answers. The needs, I think there are many needs. People need to understand basic science in order to live and make decisions about their lives and about how they live their lives and about work. Basic elementary science is a great asset when you're in all sorts of aspects of your life, making decisions about holidays and how you spend your leisure and what kind of car you drive, and if you're ill, there are many, many aspects of science which people meet every day in their lives. And I think people need to know a bit about science. And I think that people need to make decisions about the future, and the best way to make decisions is by trying to learn the lessons from history. Because if you ignore history, then people tend to repeat the same mistakes as were made, and we are not only likely to do that, but we're in dramatically new epochs. The climate is changing, the whole environment is changing dramatically beneath our feet, and we have key decisions that we need to make about where we take the world. So it's a little bit like, where do we go with this network of big history, and on a much bigger scale. In order to make those decisions, I think people need to know where we've come from, how we got here, what are the forces and factors which are influencing the future, what's the truth about things like climate change. And so we should give them as much information in an easily accessible form as we can, and then people can start to make rational decisions about the future. And not just ordinary people, but politicians too. Most politicians are not scientists. There are very few, for example, in the UK government, and I'm sure that applies to most governments. People go into science who've studied law or done other things, but not that many scientists. So politicians need to know, for the same reasons that they're making decisions about the future. They need to know, what are the constraints, what are the possibilities, why have we got these, what are the problems. And I think also the one possible place to start is the United Nations staff, because these people are involved in all sorts of issues concerning helping governments. There are special branches of the United Nations, for example, which advise governments in developing countries, how to move forward. There are many scientific organisations. The World Meteorological Organization is part of the United Nations family. There are World Health Organization. There are huge scientific backgrounds there, and I think one possibility would be, if we want to focus on something, possibly to get some funding, to approach the United Nations administration. There's going to be a new Secretary General in the next few weeks or months, and try and persuade them to include an element of this story in their training of their staff, so that they've at least got some background. Now, there is a United Nations, there are many ways to do that, but there is a specialist training organisation within the UN which produces online courses. For example, they train if people go for peacekeeping, they train the soldiers before they go, how do you do peacekeeping? And this could be an online course which we could develop with them, for example. That's one idea. There are many other ideas. A short 1-hour presentation is another, and I put a proposal about that on the site. But I think, personally, we need to look beyond our narrow horizons of thinking about schools and universities, because that way you're bound by the constraints of grants and all those things. And we need to think wider. How we finance it, I don't know, but I am prepared to put some money into financing it. I've spent my life working on this, and I've, as well as doing this, I've also earned money in my professional life. So I have got some money I could invest. Not a lot, but I've got some. So, and we might be able to find matching amounts from others. But I mean, that's where I'm coming from anyway. But I can understand where most of the academics will.
Yeah, it's something that we will have to face if we want to get academics involved in our network or our project, because yes, this is as you said, it's our way of living. I mean, it's not that we get the money so we can do whatever we want.
No.
But for example, I don't have a permanent position. And if I have to apply for a permanent position in the near future, and I explain to the tribunal that yes, I love the history and I would like to get everybody know how we can explain where we are from and etc. They will say, okay, yes, but how many indexes, how many articles do you have in
exactly.
the or whatever, and yeah, it's difficult to join all different goals of so different people from the academy, and yeah, I don't know how to explain it better, but
no, I understand.
I wish it would be in a different way, but I think this is the reality, and I think it is important that we have from the very beginning we have this academic people involved in our network. From the scientific point of view, it has to be rigorous, it has to be updated, and it's important to make academics happy with it. So.
But I mean, many academics have got an outreach brief, haven't they? They are supposed to engage the public in what they're doing, because
it's becoming important in our work.
The public, I mean, most universities are financed by the taxpayer, so the public are paying for all this research, and they have a right to know what's going on, and so most academics are encouraged to do some outreach, and this is one way of doing that.
That's true. Yeah, outreach is becoming very important for our careers also. So,
I mean, one possibility would be to have an online forum like this where we get academics in to talk about their bit of a subject for a short time, and then the public can ask them questions, so that you've got you've got an expert on a subject, and you can personally ask them questions. That might be a way to do it, and we could do that on Skype, and we could involve people from different countries and different expertise, and build up over time, build the whole story up in that way, so that what we end up with is a series of videos talking about different stages of the story, but also where people are answering the questions, or the experts are answering the questions that real people want to know. So that's one. I mean, there are lots of ways to do it, but I'm not sure what is the best way. That's what we need to talk about. But I don't know that we want to. We can't. I don't think we want to spend an awful lot of time talking, because, like what happened with your group, people will just lose interest and not keep going. We need to make some decisions, I think, and move forward and try and achieve something that's going to excite people enough to want to take part. But I don't know. I mean, we're coming at it from very different points of view, because your main thing is how do we raise some money to do it. I don't know. Raising money for me is of no interest at all, really. Doing something is far more interesting. But then I don't have to live by it.
Yeah. If you talk with young people that were attending the conference, they really wanted to do something and wanted to get involved, but if there is not a financed project behind, it's difficult
Yeah.
for these young people.
Yeah.
So I understand your point of view, and I
wonder
wish it could work like that.
I wonder if we could get subscriptions for people to take part in the online forum. So instead of being public, it would be limited to the people who. So we could have a sort of online course for them. I don't know. You'd have to get people who are really interested and really want to know in order to pay. I guess the other way to do it is to get some of the media involved. So if we could get it as a television series, I mean, your thing about the museum is a great way of getting it out to the people. So did the museum? So this was a Madrid, National Science Museum, was it? And did they invite people to produce projects to submit to their exhibition?
Yes, it was a call for all the universities in Spain. So all the research departments in each university would send a project summary to the museum. So they've chosen from all these projects all around the country. They have focused in 4 points. One was the origin of humanity. Some other was advances in environmental research for society. Well, there was 4 topics where we could, with Big History, we could have sent our summary to any of them because it could fit in any of them. But we decided to send it to the origin of humanity. So now there are 2 projects that will be shown in that section of the exhibition. One is ours, and the other one is related to Neanderthal research in Spain. And yes, as I told you, the focus was to show the general public how doing research in university is useful for our development as a species. And probably, the exhibition is not still on. It will start, I think, in September. We don't know yet because we have this government changing at the moment, and
really?
I think they stopped it. It was supposed to be open in May, and they stopped it. So I think it will be for September. I will tell you all about in the forum about it. And I think we will have some media interested in this exhibition. Yeah. And I also have an idea for a project in Spain for museums, because we have a network of science museums in the north of Spain. So they have this passport that everybody can have, and they will get a stamp in each of the science museums, like the astronomy museum or geology museum or whatever museum on the north part of Spain, in the north part of Spain. They can make this trip and get the passport with a stamp. So I thought it was a good idea if we could have a kind of big history meta museum that could link all these museums by the general history, the big history of all the museums together. That would be very easy to do. We don't have to build any big exhibition, or you just have to show in each of the museums how the contents of that particular exhibitions are related to big history. and that could be a very easy way to reach to
That's
a lot
a good
of
idea.
people. So I have this project in mind. I'm talking to some museums in my region, and yes, we're thinking about that.
Good, that sounds good.
And we also have a project in mind where we are already making the pilot episode for a small documentary about big history in Spain, like taking some topics, for example, this one about gold that I am working on. So talking about different topics from the big history point of view, but this will be a very small documentary in our region in Spanish. But this is the way we think about outreach for big history.
I guess every country has got a whole different system, different strengths and weaknesses as far as selling big history goes. And so maybe we'll end up with different approaches in different countries. I'm not sure how people are going to support each other directly, whether we can come up with one project. I think somebody mentioned having a European conference every year instead of waiting every 2 years for a conference. So every other year we could have a European conference. That might be another way of doing it, but that's obviously not going to involve people outside the big history community, which is what we're aiming to do. So I think maybe we ought to. I mean, we've had a reasonable talk. It's been a good first go. Thank you very much for taking part, because otherwise I would have been talking to myself. I mean, just briefly, how do you think we ought to move forward? Do you think we should have? I mean, I guess what we need to do is try and find a date when more people can. Or do you think a video conference is a good idea, or would it be better to have just a text-based online forum type discussion?
I think we should keep both,
okay.
Because maybe not everybody will be able to make the Skype conversation, and they will like to follow with the text forums. But I think it's a good idea if we try to keep these conferences like this one. And,
so we need to, I guess we need to try
maybe trying to find a date that
find a date. Yeah. Okay. Now I just picked a date so that at least we'd do an experiment to see if it worked. But it's been good. I think it's been interesting. So hopefully we'll have a recording of this video on the web, because I don't think we had a huge audience watching, but maybe people will watch it later.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you again, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for calling, and I hope this will work in the future. I'm not sure. I know for sure that it will be very slow, but we will make some advance in the way, which is always good. So it's a good start, as you said. Yeah.
All right. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Adios. Bye bye.